Hello again and welcome to another Truth Team 10 video. This is the third and final part of the Ghostbusters actor Dan Akyryd talking about UFOs and aliens. I realized in the previous videos that I didn't put that, he was in the first Ghostbusters movie from like the 80s. So a lot of people probably don't really recognize the name Dan Akyryd. But yeah, so he was in that movie as well as many others. He's a pretty famous actor for those times. But yeah, this is the third and final part. I'd like to welcome all my new subscribers and viewers, and also remind you all to don't forget to subscribe to the channel for updates on newer videos as they come out. I've been a bit slack this week, but yeah. Anyway, here's part 3, and I'll see all of you in the next video.
It's going to take a mass sighting for the U.S. government to finally say, look, we're going to come on side with France, Belgium, Mexico, Turkey, Iran, and we're going to tell the truth, and we're going to reveal what happened to Tom Mantell when he went up in his P-51, what happened in the Great Lakes when I believe it was an F-104, I believe, was scrambled over the Great Lakes in the 60s. What happened to him? I think that that if you have that type of sighting, then there'll be no choice.
Interdimensional travel. I mean, not just traveling through our dimension, but going into alternate dimensions, Dan. Would you, and if you could, a spaceship arrives in your yard, and you've got the barbecue out, and there's the steak on the grill, and they want you right now to come with them and go into another dimension, and to move forward and backwards on the timeline, to go forward in time and backward in time. If you could move forward and backward in time, are there any events in human history that you would interfere with, that you would change to alter the destiny and the course of humanity?
Well, I wouldn't want to go back in time and change anything, because that would be a tampering that I wouldn't serve mankind well. Although there are many horrors, of course. Wouldn't you have loved to have caught Hitler as a 15-year-old and have him drown in a river? Because then we could have solved the Holocaust problem, and then World War II may not have. Well, look, there were two guys. There was Otto Dinkel. You ever heard of him? Well, he was an orator hired by the German army, just like Hitler was, to speak. If Hitler died, maybe Otto Dinkel would have been the guy that would have gone on with this rabid anti-Semitism and wiped out 9 million people. Of course, one thinks of those things, but you don't want to go back in time and play with events, because where we've come to today and the improvements we've made in human rights and in regarding ourselves as sacred, they've come because of the bad things that have happened. Now, if I went into the future, I would want to see where this planet is 300 years from now. Did we make it? Did we make it? That's what I would like to know.
I mean that from my knowledge of the world that I see around me, I think that it is much more likely that the reports of flying saucers are the result of the known irrational characteristics of terrestrial intelligence rather than the unknown rational efforts of extraterrestrial intelligence.
Interdimensionality, again, if you could move forward and backward in time and meet any personality, any public figure, celebrity, or politician, or mystical figure, is there anybody that you would like to sit down with? If you could have lunch with them, or just sit down and talk to them and have a discussion, forward and backward in time?
Oh, I'd love to spend an afternoon with Richard Feynman. Would love to sit down with Heisenberg, and of course, Einstein, Niels Bohr, Max Planck. I'd love to sit with the particulate, the quantum physics guys, because there really is the root of understanding how and why the world is the way it is, and the joy of these studies in antimatter that are occurring.
Everyone you picked is a physicist, a scientist, and I often think about how spirituality and science are merging, how they're kind of coming together. I mean, what ancient civilizations thought of a universe was really the Earth and the Sun and a few planets. And now with the advent of the Hubble telescope, we can see that the universe is far bigger than the ancients had ever imagined. So while science and religion are merging on some ideas, in other areas they're just far off. But to make matters even more complicated, the idea of parallel dimensions or parallel universes, I mean, it's just getting so vast out there. How do you map a multiverse?
You know, I've talked to some guys, they say that fifth dimension, sixth dimension, could be right here by my ear and could be a millimeter wide and a millimeter across. You don't, you know, because you're talking about, you know, dimensions that defy any kind of dimensional understanding. And, you know, there was I forget his name, he died recently, in the last 2 years, but he proposed that there are parallel realities just because of the way we go through time. Like here we are in this interview right now. Well, what I said and what you said and what we all did 2 minutes ago still exists somewhere because we just did it. It's there. It's like a wake we've left. And if you had a time vehicle, you could go back to 2 minutes before and stop and see what we're doing 2 minutes before. You go back to your high school days. You go back to your days as an infant. And those realities are still existing alongside what we're progressing through. You know, it's all a beautiful, beautiful mystery. I am here because I am a writer, a performer. I find it entertaining. I'm not a scientist. You know, and I'm not a theosopher or philosopher. And you know, I am just here because it is enormously, enormously entertaining. And mysteries like this are challenging. And it's really, really fun to contemplate that, you know, there may be beings out there who are concerned about our planet and who may give us the opportunity to advance ourselves. It's really fun to contemplate. All the physics that we know on this planet, quantum physics and conventional physics and metallurgy and you know, all of it, it can really encompass a theory of how these ships move. I mean, you've done it yourself, David, proposing, you know, that if you can convert, you know, a mass to a state of, you know, of photonic energy, then there is no mass anymore, and you're looking at pure light. You're looking at anti-gravity. You're looking at something that can be, you know, harnessed in waves. Well, what is the fuel? Well, people, you know, Bob Lazar talked about, you know, this element 115 that was put into these generators to boil mercury and to be used as gravity tractors. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I mean, they must be using a fuel that's unavailable to us. Does it give off radioactive waste? What is the cost to them? For instance, the Venice UFO that you recently showed me, and I covet that tape. That's amazing. Because you see the metallic quality of the object, you see the force field around it, you see it spinning.
It was May 2nd, 2004, approximately 11:30 a.m. And I was walking from my apartment with my girlfriend down this alley right here. And we were just sort of walking this way, and I looked up over at those phone lines, and we saw something that we really couldn't make sense of. It was a very shiny, you know, metallic disc. So we turned the corner here, and this is basically where we're just looking at it. And we're pretty much like, okay, that's not a balloon or anything we're familiar with. So we sort of kept walking to the corner and just stared at it for a while until it hit me, you know, that this was really something. There was a man also looking at it, sort of a bystander, and he said, wow, do you guys see that? And that's when I realized all three of us were looking at something extraordinary.
What is the environmental cost of running these machines? Are they clean or are they not? Is there some wherever, you know, they came from, is there some place they have to go back to after their journeys are finished to dump whatever they've used up in terms of fuel, like we would a bad fuel rod in a reactor? That is a question I'd like to know. I'd like to ask is, you know, are you a clean burning vessel, or is there some cost that you pay like we paid for atomic energy?
When we consider that it may be possible to take mass and reduce it down to zero, make it as light as a photon, we can start to approach this whole light speed phenomena from a whole new direction. I mean, we're going to be able to do this. This is the only logical answer. There are no fissile nuclear materials in the universe as we know it to produce the kind of energies in a steady stream that you need to get mass up to that speed. There are no fissile nuclear fuels that can produce 1 trillion electron volts all day long. And wormholes are even more exotic. The idea of, you know, bending and folding two spaces of space-time together and creating a shortcut wormhole to vector in between those 2 points, according to Kip Thorne, who wrote Black Holes and Time Warps, that the energy required for a wormhole is 100 million suns, the negative energy they put out for an entire year. There are 100 million suns in our galaxy alone. That means all of the negative solar energy coming from our suns in this whole galaxy, the total energy for a whole year is required to create a wormhole. Where has any extraterrestrial civilization or our civilization going to get access to levels of energy that high? It's never going to happen. That's why I've reversed the table here. I said, you know, you have to ultimately get frustrated with the idea of increasing energy en masse. You have to just, it's like banging your head against the wall and trying to cram it through the wall. You will never be able to do it this way. So the new way, as I propose, is to make this all possible. And when you consider UFOs coming in, stopping on a dime, and then accelerating and turning out into space, any Air Force pilot can tell you that stopping on a dime, the G-forces are going to throw you right through the walls.
Yeah, you'll be crushed.
And then sudden acceleration is going to do the same thing. It's going to destroy the body of the pilot. So this new approach and this new idea, I mean, this is just the inception, it's just the beginning, but I think this is really the only avenue that we can look down right now, and the only way we can see solving this problem. While Gordon Cooper was an Air Force pilot stationed in Munich, Germany in 1951 in the 86th Fighter Bomber Group, where he flew F-84s and F-86s, Cooper testifies to having chased disc-shaped UFOs that outmaneuvered the most advanced fighter jets of our time.
We were flying in Germany, and we were flying F-86s. And they would come over and do the same maneuvers that we make, except every once in a while one of them would go zip. And you just can't do that in a fighter, a conventional fighter. They're just typical saucer shape, double lenticular shape, metallic looking. Well, yeah, they weren't just random. They were flying fighter formations, very definitely under positive control.
I'm here to announce that the second annual Exopolitics Expo, X-Conference 2005, was concluded on Sunday, April 24th. This event was produced by Paradigm Research Group. 26 speakers and panelists presented to 450 attendees over 3 days. It was a unique event which focuses on the political, governmental, and social implications of extraterrestrial-related phenomena. It is produced by PRG as part of the emerging activist movement seeking to end a government-imposed truth embargo regarding extraterrestrial-related phenomena.
Do you believe, and describe, do you believe that your show was shut down for national security reasons? And tell us a little bit about what happened with the show out there.
Well, what happened? What we sold the show to Sci-Fi Channel, and it was called Out There, and I basically interviewed all of the people that I admired in various fields of study, like Colin Andrews from the crop circle movement, Linda Moulton Howe, the expert on cattle mutilations, John Mack. And let me just put a pin in things right there, because John Mack has taken the study of abductions, UFOs, right out through the other side, and he's going, yes, we know they're here, we know they're coming, we know people have been taken, we know there's experimentation going on, we know people have been told about agendas. What we now have to do is use that as a key and as a motivation to socially transform this planet to a more peaceful, more loving, more tolerant state. So his movement, the movement for social change, has just accepts as a fact abductions, UFOs, interplanetary intervention, and what he's doing is taking it out through the positive side of it and saying, now we must use it to socially transform. And I think his message is great. But I talked to him, I talked to the Allagash guys who were taken in the canoe on that trip in Pennsylvania. The last show we did, I had both Bassett, who has the UFO time clock, and then Greer. Both Bassett and Greer were there. They were my two guests for the day. Well, the show was canceled that afternoon. And I was outside, before I knew it was canceled, in between the interviews. And I was outside, and Britney Spears called me because she wanted me to appear on Saturday Night Live with her. And so I was outside having a cigarette, the phone rang. Oh, Brittany, how you doing? Oh, sure, of course I will. I turned away like this. I turned back, and there was a black Ford across the road, a black Ford sedan. And I was trying to look at the plate, and the plate seemed kind of like fuzzy, and I was, definitely a police car. And two guys were there, and a big, big, tall guy got out of the back seat, and he stood in the street on 42nd Street it was. We were at 42nd Street and 8th Avenue, and he looked right at me. And literally, I was on the phone. Hey, oh, sure, of course I'd love the show. Saw the Ford, went back like this, turned back like a half second later, and it was gone. And that car did not go past me. It did not make a U-turn, because I would have seen 42nd Street. I would have seen that thing take a U-turn and go away. That car vanished. That car was a cloaked vehicle of some type. And whether this was like a warning to me, because the guy got out of the back seat, gave me a real dirty look. That car vanished. I know what I saw. And it was just this fast. It was, oh, hi, Brittany, sure. Oh, of course, I'd love to. Guy gives me a dirty look. Oh, well, sure. Car gone. That's what happened. And then 2 hours later, we were told we were not to continue taping, and the show was canceled, and none of them would air. I don't know. I don't know. Was that an MIB experience? Black helicopters, military abductions that happen. Sometimes people are taken, and they talk about then being visited by military personnel and debriefed about their abduction. Was it a technology associated with some of these beings that are visiting that wanted to warn me off, or that wanted to give me verification that I was on the right track? I don't know. But I do know I did turn back a second later, and it takes so long for an automobile accelerating from 0 to 40 miles an hour to reach the corner of 8th Avenue and 42nd Street going past me, and then pulling a U-turn and going out towards Times Square. I would have seen that car. And I looked around. I was looking for that, then it was gone. So, I don't know. The tapes exist. I have them. We're going to try to repackage them. We might put them out on DVD.
That right there. That's an actual Men in Black experience right there. That nobody talks about it, probably because most people haven't even watched this far into the interview. I guarantee you most people haven't. Like, these days, a lot of people, you see on YouTube, like, people have, like, a lot of the views, even, like, long documentaries, they get, like, 3-4 minutes watch time. I guarantee you, even most of the people that are viewing this video right now will probably only watch the first 5 minutes. But if you've made it this far, I'm impressed. Good job. But, yeah, like, that right there is an actual Men in Black encounter. Like, and you can tell he's not bullshitting, And on top of that, like, I don't think he would probably have the video footage, because the video footage was probably of the documentary that he was filming inside the venue, unless he had a camera on him, and then he can't really show you the footage right now, obviously, because otherwise the government's going to be pissed. But yeah, I believe him. You know, that's you know, like the way he explained it and everything, and he, you know, he's like, you know, you can tell that it's like a visualized memory that he's talking about, rather than just like a script. You know, you can kind of tell these things when you watch a lot of these interviews and things like that with people. Like, you know, some people are like full of shit, but this guy, no, I believe him. He's you know, he's got that vibe. You know. Anyway, let's continue.
I was having some cameramen film the installation of a precision landing facility we were putting in right on the edge of the dry lake. And this saucer flew right over them and put down 3 little gear and landed out on the dry lake bed. And they went out to, picked up their cameras and moved on out toward him filming. And he lifted off, put the gear back in the well, and climbed out at a very high rate of speed and disappeared. And so while I was going through all the regulation books and finding out the number to call in Washington to report it, I had them go over and develop the film. By the time they got back with the developed film, I was on the higher and higher and higher level officer talking to me. Finally with the colonel telling me to you know, when the film arrived at my desk, to put it in the carrier pouch. There would be a courier there at my office by that time already, and they'd arranged for him to fly in our base airplane back to Washington with these films, and do not run prints, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We didn't have a chance to run it. I had a chance to hold it up to the window and look at it. It was certainly good film. Well, by this time I was involved in the research and development and doing very classified programs myself, you know, at the test center. So I knew that we didn't have any vehicles of that kind, and I was 99 9/10% sure that the Russians didn't have any of that type either. So it certainly, was, at that point in time, there was no doubt in my mind that this vehicle was made at some other place than here on Earth. Yeah, well, Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon coming true.
Dude, I got it, man.
Probably moved 100 miles in a matter of a second or two.
In July of 2002, right here in the Washington, D.C. area, there was yet again a airspace jet chase by 2 F-16 jet interceptors, charged, which were chasing a bluish object right outside D.C. In fact, we have one of the key eyewitnesses here in this room today. This received some play in the Washington Post and a little bit of mainstream media, then of course fell into the black hole of the media, never to be discussed again. What were these objects that were able to outperform F-16 interceptors in a post-9/11 America? What is going on?
And what are the consequences, or the potential consequences, in the event that we should shoot down a few of them?
Remember this photo right here, because this is another video I already had planned, but I'll be getting to that later.
A related question that I have been asking myself is, to what extent are they really an enemy? What crimes have they committed against humanity? They have certainly upset the military by flying over their most secret installations, by shadowing their planes, by buzzing their astronauts.
The Army shot 1,430 rounds of anti-aircraft fire at the UFO between 3:12 and 4:15 a.m. Army Chief of Staff General George C. Marshall wrote a top-secret memo to President Franklin D. Roosevelt that the U.S. Navy recovered an unidentified craft off the coast of California. The retrieved craft was in fact not earthly and in all probability of interplanetary origin. I mean, to me, what this is all about is not just, looking up in the sky and saying, wow, there's another UFO, yet another sighting. I mean, it's about exploring the phenomena. We have to get past denial. I mean, everyone is stuck at denial. I mean, mainstream science says the phenomena is not happening, and they don't take it seriously, and they try to sweep with them half the world. But over 50% of the American population, according to polls, believe in the UFO phenomena, and the government just buries it.
Well, there's some media that are guilty of trying to suppress, and there are some media that are just throwing the story out there. Now, this Mexican sighting, we had coverage on Fox, we had coverage on CNN, and in the Daily News in the Valley here, we had a front page article, with the pictures and UFO, big question mark, and I mean, they were treating it. I think increasingly now, the media has to take into account that this is a reality. And I think, again, to go along with the theory and the feeling that John Mack has, we let's get past the debate whether they're here or not. Let's start to analyze who they are, how many of them are there, what kind of systems they're using, what their intentions are to us here on their planet, and can we utilize this knowledge to better ourselves as a species.
With the advent of the Hubble telescope, I mean, when you see how big it really is out there, and the idea that we're stuck on this myopic little ball, we're just glued to it, we can't get our eyes off of it. It's more of a mystery now than it ever has been. Why we're stuck here, and there's got to be a way to decode the matrix and finding out how these craft work, how we can get out into the universe ourselves. I mean, I think that's what this is really all about. It's not about trying to prove it whether it's right or wrong. It's like when the first time man saw a bird fly.
Well, the last UFO symposium conducted by MUFON, they sent me the book of the speakers. There were many, many scientific people in there, many astrophysicists, celestial mechanics experts, metallurgists, people who've been consulted on these cases over the years. No, I mean, when you have John Callahan, an ex-FAA supervisor, saying, yep, they're real. When you have John Schuessler, who was a Boeing engineer, now running MUFON, and saying, yep, they're real. When you have pilots and personnel in the police and military coming forward in the Rockefeller Report and in the Disclosure Report saying they're real. When you have a Belgian general on television showing you a tape from a fighter which is filming an object escaping at high speed. When you have this Mexican case, I think we can pretty well put it to bed and say, yep, they're here, they're doing things to us, with us, interacting with us. Whether we've had, official military contact, again, that goes into the black box area, but there should be no debate anymore. UFOs exist. They are intelligently manufactured and guided technology from somewhere else, not this planet.
While human beings can only see from red to violet wavelengths of light, the infrared and ultraviolet spectrums are invisible to humans. I quickly learned that NASA uses special video cameras that are capable of seeing into these invisible spectra.
The tether has broken and is going away from us. Get it on the TV, Claude. Please get it on the TV.
After the 12-mile-long tether snaps, several days later on an orbital pass, the cameras find something that should not be there. In the NASA STS-75 tether incident of March 1996, we find NASA using ultraviolet light sensitive video cameras. This is where some of the largest UFOs ever caught on videotape have been captured. Huge dish-shaped luminous UFOs swarm the tether. We know the tether is 77 to 100 miles away from the cameras on the shuttle. The UFOs pass behind the 12-mile-long tether, so we can therefore use the 12-mile length of the tether to measure their minimum diameters. Some measure between 1 and 3 miles wide, making them literally motherships. In Project Blue Book files, UFOs with these same features have been reported several times as shiny metallic discs with dark centers. Specifically, in the invisible infrared, Trevor James Constable, a retired World War II radar operator from New Zealand, has photographed many UFOs with the same features, translucent discs of light with dark centers.
The time has come to lift the veil of secrecy and let the truth emerge so there can be a real and informed debate about one of the most important problems facing our planet today.
So how do people respond to Dan Aykroyd when he talks to them on a personal level about UFOs?
You know what? It's interesting. When I talk to people, well, first of all, people ask me about it. They come to me and they say, oh, well, you know, we saw an interview, we heard an interview, they heard the thing on Art Bell that we did. They come to me and ask me about it. So it's not like I have to go out there and crusade and say, hey, did you hear about the latest Mexican case? They've seen CNN, they've seen Fox, they've seen the Daily News. They come to me and ask me about it, and I basically lay out, you know, my thoughts on it. I'd say half the people that I speak to about this have either seen themselves, heard about it from a credible witness, or are willing to accept. The other half, totally not. Harold Ramis, my good friend and collaborator, does not believe, will not accept until, you know, hard proof is presented to him in the form of, you know, something tangible. And what I've been able to do is just open people's minds a little bit and let them think about it. And of course, the greatest proof are the kinds of tapes that now exist, the kind of videos that exist. Usually, when I show some tape of some different things that have been exposed to me, well, it's pretty convincing. And then at that point, people have to go away and accept that, you know, that these things are a part of our reality. Well, what I'd like to, you know, what we'd all like to affect is some positive change in the world and try to help the tipping point where good tips to overflow evil in the world. I mean, you know, we know there's good and bad out there, yin yang, black, white, you know, there are you know, there's tremendous divisiveness in the planet, and you know, perhaps this study and this understanding of things that are greater than we have accomplished technologically will lead us to a spiritual awakening, one that helps us respect other beings out there in the universe and other dimensions, and also in our own 4 dimensions and here in the physical world that we live in. The sacredness of human life, the willingness to get along a little better, to relinquish materialism and territoriality in favor of a more comprehensive worldview, in which we unite and we all feel the energy within us as part of a universal light.
Gotta thank you, Dan, so much for this interview. I'm very grateful. I really believe you're one of the greatest minds in our world at this time. Thank you so much.
There you go. That's the end of the Dan Aykroyd interview. I'd like to thank all of you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stuff like this. I'll be leaving. Oh, and also I should also mention that this is part 3. Of the parts that I've uploaded so far. The other 2 parts will be in the description. You'll see that by the title of the video. But yeah, they'll be in the description. I highly recommend watching those first, obviously. But yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video, and I'll see you then.